You're listening to Talk About It, the official podcast of Phenomenology Club. This is our second upload in a roundtable discussion series that we're having here in our club, where sequentially we are going through the videos that we have uploaded to our YouTube channel and discussing them more in depth amongst ourselves. All of our discussions take place in our club Discord channel. If you are a club member, then you already have access to this channel. So if you're looking to come participate with us in the next one, please check the Patreon or the website for the next date and time so you can come participate with us. Or if you are not a member and are interested in becoming one for only $1 a month, you can go to the Patreon to do so. Or if you'd just like to learn more about our club, look at some of our materials, read some of our stuffs, you can do so by going to our website, www.phenomenology.club. Anyway, like I said, this is our second roundtable discussion video. The first one that we uploaded was about moral relativism and its application to the arts, part 1, because that was about the first YouTube video we uploaded to our channel. And now this one is going to be about the second video uploaded to our YouTube channel, titled, Is Human Consciousness Special? Let's talk about it. Okay, we're in business. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our second roundtable discussion for Phenomenology Club's brand new podcast series, Talk About It. This is our second episode. You guys haven't heard the first one, but I edited it and it's great. And I think I'll be dropping these two at the same time, double trouble like. So the first one was about the first video episode, moral relativism and its application to the arts. We had a really good discussion. And this second one now, we're going to be talking about the second video I uploaded, which is human consciousness special? So maybe if someone wants to get the discussion going with any talking point, maybe if anything I said was unclear, I could clarify that. But if not, we can just get into it. And like last time, if you could maybe, when you begin talking, introduce yourself with your name and where you're from, or maybe your username and where you're from, or a fun fact about you, like Jeopardy or something. But let's get it popping. Welcome.
Yeah.
Hello. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Zuffary from Minnesota. Fun fact about me, I was born in Texas, but so I've watched the video a couple times.
Okay.
And
What'd you think?
I thought it was interesting.
Okay. What do you find interesting about it? Give us your thoughts, Zuff. Let's pick that brain apart.
Well, I don't know. It just made me think about I was watching some other video about how humans there's like a theory or something that we adapted ourselves to like get this language thing going on, but it like cost us our memory or whatever. And they were showing how like monkeys are really good at this memory game and shit.
Oh, really? That's interesting because, that's something I've heard different things about too. Like, apparently our ability to make complex language is the result of like some genetic evolution or something. So that kind of trips me out to think about if true. I'm not sure if I'm conceptualizing this correctly. But the idea that like, evolution created some like pathway to being able to communicate better because it's like evolutionary. Well, not because it's advantageous, but it clearly is.
Yeah, it was just necessary for us, I guess, at the time, But basically, the video talks about how there were like two species of primates, basically, at the time. And one of them was like what we consider like monkeys and shit, what turned into like monkeys. And then the other one was like a few of us or whatever.
And what do you think about that?
And well, I don't know. I just think that's really interesting with regards to thinking like, is human consciousness special? Because it just sort of like our comprehension of language and stuff just stemmed from like natural processes or whatever, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we must have some sort of a physiological disposition to being able to have complex language, because animals also have ways of communicating, you know? So
Yeah.
communication clearly is advantageous to multiple species. But with us, it's like, I mean, being able to have language just like totally changed the fucking game. You know, language is the fucking platform for all civilization. It's
Yeah,
fucking
it made us
crazy.
think about like hypotheticals and shit.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm Cammie. Coming to you from New York.
Hello, Cammy. Sorry, go ahead. Continue with your thought.
So yes, there's like 5 different types of languages. I forget what they are, but they say like body language is like 70% of interactions or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, so much of what we communicate is unspoken, you know? We're always picking up on each other's vibes and stuff. Okay, well, let's go back to something Zuff just said. Zuff said that we are able to think in hypotheticals. And I think that that's really interesting, because I think the fact that we're able to like contemplate our own existence as humans or whatever, you know, this is something that I always see people talking about as like what sets us apart, you know, listening to like Jordan Peterson types or something. There's all these people that sort of entertain metaphysical worldviews, and they always go back to this idea that like we are separate from the animals because we have the ability to contemplate our own existence. And I totally subscribed to that idea for a while too, you know, because it is trippy as fuck. But when I think about it, it's like kind of ridiculous, because it's sort of like just like skips this whole realization that the only reason we're able to do any of that is through language, which is just, you know, this thing we invented. Not to say that it's not incredible and trippy as hell, but it's like it really changes your perspective on that whole idea, you know? I mean, the idea that our consciousness is like fundamentally different from the animals, I think, is what is absurd. Like, obviously, the human experience is incredibly unique, but it's like, I don't think that our conscious juice is like any different from the animals, you know? I feel like thinking about it endlessly like changed my whole fucking worldview. Cause like it seems so stupid, but when I sat and thought about it, I'm like looking at Steven, my pet rabbit, like, holy shit. We always say animals don't know stuff, they don't know what they're doing, but he totally fucking knows what he's doing, you know? When he
Yeah.
wants to get up and run around, he does. When he wants to go eat, he does. When he wants to take a shit, he does. He has categories in his head for all these things. And it's so trippy to try to think about what does knowing look like apart from language, you know? It's impossible to even tell at this point, because it's been so ingrained in us since we were babies, you know? It's like trying to find out what characteristics are intrinsically female and which are male. And in this world full of 7 billion people, we still can't figure it out, because there's like no humans that exist in some vacuum that we could study them, that they've been apart from society where we could actually try to figure it out, you know? When we were babies, we learned things without language just by seeing them repeated and by doing things. And you know, you learn to walk because you put one foot in front of the other and it works, and then you do it again and again and it keeps working. It's like we're programmed to seek out patterns and like, you know, follow the results. But it's like, how could we ever even try to like access these modes of knowing that exist prior to language? And like Cammy was saying, we're constantly acting them out. Like, you know, we're still giving and receiving cues all the time from our body language. But like, I don't know how to like articulate those things. I don't even know like to what extent they're working and doing things, you know? It's fucking nuts.
Yeah, no, it is totally trippy.
Well, after I don't know what book exactly I read about body language, and it made me like see things like completely differently when I communicate with people, because it's like, yeah, it's like most of what we subconsciously interpret in interactions is through our bodies and like patterns. But yeah, I remember being like a baby and like not a baby. I think my earliest memories are like 3 and up. But I remember not being able to talk, as much.
You remember not being able to talk, you're saying?
Yeah.
Wow, I can't remember that at all. So, I mean, what do you guys think? Like, do you agree with my general thesis that at the end of the day, what really separates us from the animals is our language, not so much any properties of consciousness itself?
I'm Grace, and I'm from Ecuador.
Hey, we got an international person in here. Thanks for being here. Welcome.
Since Grubs didn't show up.
Oh, true. Yeah. Our New Zealand bitch. So what do you think? Is human consciousness special?
It is special because it makes you think, well, do everything you do. I mean,
Right.
I don't know.
Do you agree with, we were talking about how we think that ultimately what makes us actually different from other species and able to do all our unique human activities is just because we've constructed this incredibly complex language.
It's a systematic response.
Right. Right. So it's like it sort of arose out of natural processes. But do you think that human consciousness has qualities that are literally different from other species? Or do you think that it's our specific brain?
No.
Okay. Interesting. Because, some people do, which is like why I made the video. It's almost like it's easily explained and accepted that what makes us actually different is our language. But I feel like a lot of us haven't even internalized it, that the difference between me and a bunny is just that I'm a better computer, I accept that fact easily. But I feel like my whole life growing up, I really thought that we were like crazy special, That's why like all these people are always looking at hieroglyphics and like, oh, it was an ancient astronaut and the aliens came down and made us speak. And there's so many theories about how humans became the way we are. Like, all these people go living their lives like completely convinced that humans are just this magically strange species, Maybe that's why we're so narcissistic and treat the world like we own the fucking place.
I think at one point we're just like, oh shit, we can make sound from our mouth. So then try to take advantage of that. But like there's like entire colonies of like animals and shit with their own structures. Like just look at ants.
Oh yeah, ants are fucking trippy as hell. Like how are they so highly efficient? They don't talk. What the fuck is going on there?
And like I think the minions transcended all language.
Yeah, how the fuck did the minions
globalist
do that
agenda? So let's not even go there. That's a whole other discussion. Because the minions are on some other shit.
It's like we learn language, so I mean, maybe language was just sort of an accident. Some caveman was like pointing at a rock and he said, it's this word, or whatever. And then the other people were like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
It is funny to think about like how fucking long it must have taken for them to agree on even the simplest. I mean, it took millions of years when you think about it. Humans have been around for millions of years. And like when you think about it, it makes perfect sense because it's like even the length of time it would take for everyone alive to agree on like what to call a fucking rock or an apple. That would take so long, especially if you don't have any like peripheral words to try to come to a decision. Like, do you think everyone just stood and pointed at stuff and they all just said their vote? And then eventually everybody said the same word? Like, how the fuck did anyone end up agreeing? It must have taken forever.
I figure like one mommy and one daddy agreed and then they passed it on to their kid. And then there's 3 of them.
You think maybe someone just had like a really big caveman family and that was their thing?
Yeah, they're like incest family created all language.
Yeah, there was just like so many of them, and they were like, okay, we're in charge, bitch.
Yeah, probably just the biggest dude got to pick the word.
You think if other people refused to use the word the biggest dude wanted, like you
Yeah,
just
like
beat the shit out of them?
You just fucking eat them.
You just killed him. Yeah, it was like, oh, you don't think that's a fucking boulder? Well, fuck you.
Boom, bitch. Oh my god, yeah. And like all these different tribes. I mean, it must have started with like, you know, I'm sure there was a time when like each tribe had its own language and there was like 100 fucking languages, even though there was only like I don't know, 10,000 people in the world. And it was just ridiculous and they just had to like merge, I guess. It sounds so fucking hard. Imagine how stressful that life was. I'm getting stressed just thinking about this. Everyone's just like screaming.
And I mean, we don't even entirely agree on language, you know, nowadays. Not in like a negative way, but like, you know, we have different languages now too.
Facts. It's so funny how we're always trying to like tell each other like, no, that's what this is. This is what truth is. This is what good is. This is what evil is. It's like, dude, there is no answer. It's whatever we all agree on. Like you're not going to find it. You could sit here arguing all damn day long. There is no one answer. We're all just giving our reasons for why we think this is the best definition. But the fact that we can't agree on it means that there is no clear definition. So we're never going to agree until we all accept one, you know?
What about the aliens?
What about the aliens? Let's go there. What do you think?
Hi, I'm Spacecock.
Where are you from?
I'm from the Wild West, California. Aliens, they're pretty special. I mean, we don't know if they're there, but that's what makes them special, right?
Do you guys think they're there?
Yeah, but if they were, I mean, they are there, but we wouldn't be able to communicate with them. Or we wouldn't even be able to see them.
You don't think so?
Not a speed of light.
I mean, I think if they're here, if they've come in contact with us, they could probably figure out how to communicate with us, you know? I mean, they'd be pretty fucking smart to be able to get here from wherever the fuck they came from, which is clearly very far. If they have that kind of technology, I imagine they'd find a way to like speak to us because we're clearly way below their intelligence, you know?
Or maybe it's reversed.
I mean, yeah, it could be like super abstract, you know, like the way we don't recognize exactly how a lot of animals are communicating, even though we fancy ourselves so much more intelligent. Maybe it's like so much more abstract than we're capable of like recognizing that we just can't even like access that anymore.
But we're moving towards an age of languagelessness. Like, for instance, emojis. Babies speak in emojis now. And
What?
That's a way of communicating. That's language, right? Or not?
Yeah, that's actually interesting that you say that. It made me think of that movie Arrival, which I fucking hated, which I won't get into, but it's like, yeah, I mean, think about like Chinese characters too. Like a lot of them, or kanji rather, like a lot of those characters also have like pictorial value. Like they're not quite like emojis, but like, you know, a lot of the characters that describe a certain thing actually aesthetically imitate the thing, you know? So it is sort of like an emoji in that sense. It's like an emoji is just a character. I mean, all language is just like a system of symbols, right? You know?
Yeah, but this is Bash Nova. Without semantic content for you to actually know about what language is perceiving and directed at, then you don't really have a say in the matter. Like, you can't really read kanji until you've learned how to write it and what each stroke means. It's the same with anything. Like, I could write absolutely anything. It might look alien, but does that mean something's talking through me, or is it me that's the alien because we evolved from a one-cell organism?
Well, I mean, when it comes down to like pictorial characters, you know, I don't think there's really that much difference between an emoji and like a few words. because like what is like the cry laugh emoji means like, haha, this is funny. Like that's what I'm communicating to you. It's just like a more condensed way of doing it. You know what I'm saying? It's like it still is working the same exact way.
Can I jump in?
Was that? Yes, jump in. Introduce yourself briefly, please.
Hi, I'm Ray from Arizona. So the emojis, though, it's not like, it's not language per se. It's just images. I can imagine not having language pretty easily, at least in terms of like everyday interactions with the world. Not so much trying to organize my ideas in a really coherent and like fine-tuned kind of way. But with emojis, it's just images. If like I can, think about this. Say you want an apple, because you always use an apple as an example.
Yes.
Say you are craving an apple. You're not thinking in your head. At least I'm not thinking in my head, I want an apple. What I'm like, I just have some kind of like vague like sensation of the apple that I'm remembering. Right? It's not like language per se. Anyways, I think that animals probably work in this same way, where it's just kind of like a vague, like residual feeling of the sensory experience of whatever it is that you're thinking about, not lingually. Anyways, emojis are actually a good example of what I think can't be put in the same category as human language per se.
But if you put like an apple, I mean, you're expressing that you want that apple. If you put an emoji of an apple, you're expressing something. I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, you said, Ray, you just said that language is different, but it's like an emoji is a picture, but what is the letter E? That's also just a picture. If it didn't exist as the letter. Yeah, it's just, I mean, it literally is just like the letter E and an emoji of a smiley face are really like no different to somebody who doesn't know what they are necessarily. They're both just images.
I was going to say,
they both.
I would disagree there.
Okay, Ray, you say you disagree. What do you disagree with?
Well, I mean, the letter E, you have to learn what that means. And just like, human language, we have to learn what these words mean. An emoji of a face, I mean, if you've seen people make that face, like, you don't need language for that. And the way that you're thinking about it isn't in language.
Well, that's interesting, though, because do you think if you expose somebody who's never seen a smiley face to one, that they would necessarily know it's supposed to be a face? Like, we know a smiley face is a smiley face, but like, do you think, I don't know. I think it would probably depend on what the face looks like, but I feel like a lot of people might see a smiley face that had never seen one or had any concept of like even drawing or something. I feel like they would not necessarily know that it's supposed to represent a face.
I think they would, because they would feel their own face when they're smiling. They would have some sort of reference to themselves, even without a mirror or something like that.
Yeah, but haven't you ever seen a drawing of something and you didn't exactly know what it was until someone was like, it's a face, Like, I mean, I see drawings all the... What?
No,
oh, come on, you're lying. You've never seen a drawing of it. You're lying.
So now we're saying
it's a human thing to make what you see inside your own head like two dots could look like eyes. That's just human nature to try and do that, to try and make sense of what you see in an abstract form.
I agree, but I don't think it will always be immediately apparent. Like, I think we see drawings all the time and we don't know what it is until someone's like, look at it this way.
That's why you need to learn it.
Duck rabbit.
The duck rabbit. Hey, welcome, John.
I was gonna say,
Go ahead. Hold on. Let her speak. Go ahead.
Language is like everything you do to communicate, but it's not. I mean, to communicate your feelings, your thoughts, you can make anything, but that's not language, right?
For sure. And I really like what Ray was just saying about how, like, when you want an apple, you don't necessarily say to yourself in your head, I want an apple. You just sort of have this like peripheral halo of like knowing you want one, but it's so hard to articulate exactly like how that feels. It's like a jumble of sensations, and it's like it's also interesting in the context of what Cami was saying that maybe we're moving to more of a languageless society. Like that would be interesting. I was thinking about that movie Arrival. It kind of seemed like that's what they were like implying with that whole like language system the aliens were working with. Like, you know, maybe because a lot of our language is like we do condense things more and more. Like the emoji is a condensation of words, you know. It's like I can express a basic statement now with just a face, you know. It's like maybe as we continue, like we'll start
Do
to
you
see
think
more
that's gonna happen?
utility. And I don't know. I mean, I think that I think it could happen. Like I think we already start to do it in certain ways, but I think it's hard. Like I think that's what art is, for example, you know, like
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
yeah, like we see these paintings and it's like it almost feels like what Ray was saying. It's like I feel all this stuff about it. I feel like it's communicating this thing to me, but I can't like articulate exactly what it is about it that I like so much or that it's like speaking to me right now, but I feel it, you know? So like maybe we're just not as humans, maybe we're not able to necessarily like communicate this way because I think a lot of our abilities that we like you know, that we use to create our language, I think probably have some sort of like glass ceiling or whatever, you know. I think maybe if we evolved, maybe that would be like something. I mean, we already like fantasize about this in science fiction novels and stuff like, you know, aliens always seem more and more like able to communicate with little words and just images like you touch my head and I know everything, you know,
Yeah, like
who
direct
knows?
empathy.
It makes me think of when I'm like tripping really hard and you can't like say, you don't know what you're trying to say about this thing, but like you look at whoever like else is tripping with you and you just like know.
You just know, bro. You just know, bro. Wait, so John Dewey is here. John Dewey is a big hitter. John Dewey, welcome. Are you here with us?
Yeah, hi, thank you. I'm only big hitter from off the weed pipe.
So what do you got to say? Give us some insight. You came in a little late. Tell us what you're thinking about.
Are we talking about like language tonight? Is that the deal?
Yes, we're talking about the second episode is Human Consciousness Special. And what we've been talking about for the most part, that episode is really short. I think you might have watched it because I feel like we talked about it. Where I'm just talking about how essentially I think the only real difference between humans and the animals is our language, you know. So in essence, like there's nothing special about our specific human consciousness that makes it so unique. What makes it unique is the language we built to express it to each other and with ourselves.
So like there's just like a couple things that like, you know, just to me like personally have been interesting when it comes to like language stuff is the relationship between language and desire and like how they mutually affect and kind of shape one another in certain weird ways. And also like this idea that like from like language as distinct from just like some other kind of like mutually recognized like communication between, you know, different minds or whatever is like, fuck, what was I going to say? That'll come back to me. Oh, wait. Okay. I got it. Sorry. So like this idea that language, it like only really becomes a language once there comes a point where it can distinguish between like something you just like merely believe to be true but isn't true. Like language basically gets to a point like at what point it becomes language basically, where like you can have things that aren't true and like you can lie to yourself and, you know, you can I don't know, you kind of see what I'm getting at.
Animals can do that.
So what do you mean when you say like animals can do that? Like what do you interpret?
That maybe language is special.
Like what do you interpret me as saying?
Language maybe is like special, you know, because animals can't lie, or can they? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes dogs try to be little shitheads and pretend that they didn't do something.
Okay, so there's a really interesting bit. It's from Lacan, so it's a little, you know, it's a little contrived. No, but listen, this is an interesting little anecdote. So, like, he's saying that, like, for an animal to have language, this was, like, particularly interesting to me because, you know, this question itself is, like, really interesting to me, too. So I'm glad this is, like, what we're talking about. But, like, it's just, like, a little, you know, thought experiment he has where he's like, okay, if you have a hound dog or whatever, a hunting dog that's, like, chasing, let's say, a raccoon. So, like, raccoons often, like, trick hounds and stuff. Like, you know, they'll climb up a tree and then go down another. And, like, they understand that, like, you know, it causes the dog to fuck up. But it's not that the raccoon thinks that, like, the dog has an idea of language. And, like, the raccoon itself then can't have an idea of language either because it's ultimately, like, a social thing that exists, like, apart from just two interacting beings. So he says what would mean that they, like, achieve that point is where the raccoon leaves basically false tracks, where and the raccoon basically realizes that, okay, the dog might expect me to trick him, so I'm going to do something that, like, he'll think is a trick, but it's not actually a trick. So it's like it requires, like, being able to project that level of understanding onto somebody you're communicating with in order for it to be language, the way that, like, we have language as apart from just communication.
Yeah, well,
I just want to know what you guys think about it. Like, I'm not saying that, like, this is it or anything.
yeah. A lot of these things that language describes are things that we sort of already know, like, you know, things like we already have categories in our head for things, just like animals do. We were talking about Steven, my pet rabbit, and how it trips me out so much thinking, like, when he's sitting in the room, he knows what he's doing. He knows that he's sitting instead of running or sitting instead of eating. He knows, like, exactly what he's doing. He's just not describing it to himself through language, just like what Ray was saying earlier too about the apple. It's like, you know, Steven knows if he wants an apple, he just doesn't say it to himself, just like we don't repeat to ourselves when we want an apple, I want an apple, you know. So it's like, I think language is just sort of a thing that we use to describe things that we're already thinking. I mean, it's sort of hard to even, like, articulate any of this without language, you know. It's like language is just supposed to make definitions for all these concepts. But I think a thing like deceiving someone, or, you know, like you were just saying with the raccoon tricking a thing, it's like, I don't think that would rely on having some concept of language or trickery or deception. Like, I think we were able to lie and deceive each other before we were able to talk about it and come up with a word for lying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, it's about like signs, but, like, having signs isn't necessarily the same as, like, having, like, a discursive knowledge of something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we've been talking about. God damn it. Sorry. I want to know what Ray thinks. I know she said that I can't call on her because she's too high, but she's the only one that's raised some dissent. I wanna fight. Let's fight. Someone want to raise a contentious argument.
Yeah, it's time to rumble now.
Well,
Let's fight. Zuff, what is it?
oh, I was thinking about, like, is empathy a uniquely human thing, do you think?
Hell no. Come on.
It's not.
It's not even an especially human thing.
Sorry, I didn't even go to first grade.
That's okay.
I wanted to bring the heat.
Hey, you tried.
I can jump in real quick.
Yeah, Ray, let's hear it. You got the good points.
I mean, I don't know how much of a dissenting opinion it is. I'm also kind of jumping back to what I was saying before, just because everybody started talking, and so I didn't get to finish. Anyways, though, when it comes, I mean, I'm jumping back to the emojis, but it's also just talking about, you know, like, signs that aren't words. Anyways, I mean, animals still, they can read body language in whatever sense. Like, that's kind of their way of communication, as with, like, the raccoon or whatever. So,
Totally.
I mean, I was just trying to get at that the emojis aren't in the same category as language because it is, like, it's just a representation of our body language. when it comes to the emojis that are, like not, for example, the eggplant emoji, right? I mean, that's not in the same category as just like a smiley face, because that's a more, there's a lot more like culture surrounding the, like the eggplant emoji, for example, and what that means to us. But I think pretty much anyone could see a picture of a smiley face and know that's a smiley face. And I think that even animals with their, capabilities would still be able to, I mean, smiley face, that's different because that's, human emotions and stuff. But they, point is like the same. I'm just talking about body language and the fact that emojis are just representations of body language, which is the same kind of communication that animals also have.
Okay, but let me ask you this. What's the difference between me saying I am laughing and me putting a laughing emoji?
I mean, you're still, just because you're communicating the same idea doesn't mean that it can still, I mean, in the same way that we can call the way that animals communicate with each other, if we can call that language, which I think that we're not, if I'm correct in this discussion.
Right. I don't think we are either.
Okay, so if we're not calling what animals do communication, then I don't think that we can call.
We're not calling it language.
Sorry, that is my fault. Slip of the tongue there, but
miscommunication.
Sending a laughing emoji is supposed to be just a representation of, as if you were in front of them laughing. And if you were in front of a person doing a body language thing of your species, just like animals, you'd be able to know what that means.
So language is only words?
Yeah, I mean,
No, it's not.
I think the line...
Language is words.
Well, I mean, I think the lines are kind of blurred, because it's like what I was saying. I understand what you're saying, right? And I think it's really interesting, and I agree with you to a certain extent, but I think it all probably comes down to like the context, like the eggplant thing. That's interesting, because it's like if a guy posts an eggplant, it's like this like peripheral meaning of like, I want to blink, or like I have a boner or some shit, it's like that's sort of like a complex idea to like condense into a symbol. But like at the end of the day, still, it's like I think the difference between like an emoji and like what about the difference between like a laughing emoji and like saying LOL or something, Like I feel like they're ultimately communicating the same thing. I think that the emojis have the potential to get much more abstract, like you were saying, and that's partially because you're like you're saying describing your body language, but so is typing out LOL, and so is typing out like I'm smiling so big right now, or ha ha ha,
So we can do an emoji that it's not laughing, but we know we're laughing. I don't know.
Yeah, like I mean, I think the picture, I guess it all comes to how something's being articulated. Ugh, my fucking button.
Yeah, just
turn off.
go to voice. Yeah,
someone
go to voice section.
Someone else. Yeah, you, John. Give us an idea.
No, I don't got much to say. I'm just chilling. I'm here to listen to people.
Okay, human conscious is more special than animal conscious. I do believe so.
Why?
Well, because animals are, conscious, but they don't do the same things we do. I don't know. They can, build a shelter. Well, for us, for them, I don't know.
I don't think we're more special. I just think they have a different system that we can't understand.
Lanka, what were you going to say?
I think that we're not more special because we really just got lucky with the adaptation for hands that can write whenever we had to forage more.
Well, would that mean that we're not as special, or would it mean that we just had an advantage into being more special?
Yeah, I think we had a lucky advantage that made us special, but it's not us that made us special. It's just,
Well,
I guess,
what
climate
I think.
conditions.
Can you guys hear me, by the way? I put on voice enable. Is it working?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I was gonna say I think that we're more special only because we're humans, you know? I think every species is going to naturally prioritize itself as being the most important thing in its universe because it is, you know? So, like, of course, I think that I'm more special than a dog, but I don't think I'm more special than a dog to the universe. I'm just more special than a dog in the
Right.
context of like
Right.
my own existence. Yeah, so I agree with you there. But yeah, to the universe doesn't give a fuck. Like, I am not more special in any way than a dog or an ant or a fly or anything. But I don't feel that way or live my life that way. Like, I'm the most special person in existence, basically, because that's me.
Yeah, I think universe terms, we're only as special as any other species that's not extinct. But I guess the extinct ones aren't so special anymore.
I mean, even the ones that are extinct, like, does it matter to the universe? Because isn't this all just going to end one day anyway? Like, isn't the universe like shrinking or some bullshit?
Fucking
And
hopefully.
we're all just gonna like, oh, stop. Wait, but can I ask you guys something? Does that make you depressed at all? Because a lot of people get depressed in the
Daily.
face of these kinds of realizations. Does it make you guys upset to think that like our experience doesn't really fucking matter at all in the scheme of the universe?
Yeah,
No, I think it's
totally makes
exciting.
me
No.
depressed.
I'm depressed, maybe because I don't have money, but I'm not depressed because I'm not fucking special to the universe. You know?
I think the thing that
Yeah, I want
sucks
to hear
the
a
most-
few different people. Yeah, go ahead, John. And then let's hear Ray, because she said it was exciting.
So, like, I think it's, in a way, like, I used to get, kind of depressed about it, but now I'm just like, look, every other living thing ever, like, also died. So, like, clearly it's not, like, the worst thing that could happen. So, like, there's that. And also, like, what ends up being the most frustrating thing, because, like, you can accept it. It's going to happen. Like, it's an inevitability, unless you're, like, fucking Ray Kurzweil or some other dipshit like that. But like, we're wasting.
Hey, don't come for Ray.
Yo, I'll come for that.
my man,
I'll
Ray.
come for motherfucking Ray. I'll come for him and come for fucking John Searle and all those motherfuckers.
He just
all
wants
fucking
to
night.
live forever. Okay, there's nothing.
That was such a big imagination. The only thing he can't fucking get a handle on is his own fucking mortality. You fucking hiring a fucking assistant to fucking sort his supplement ass motherfucker. So,
I didn't know this was Bash Ray Kurzweil dad.
Anyway, sorry, my bad. But yeah, like, we're wasting our fucking time. Like, the reason why it's depressing is that, like, we spend our lives doing dumb fucking worthless shit. Like, we work jobs that actually, like, do nothing good for the world or actively destroy the world, and it's just like, fuck, like, this would be bearable.
I agree there.
We found some new stupid purpose, and I don't like it.
Okay, but
that's why it's very
what do you
depressing
guys-
because there's nothing better. This is it. There's nothing after this.
What do you think we should be doing? What do you think a better existence would look like?
We should probably just nuke the entire planet.
Immortality.
Let's get a serious answer, somebody. What do you think, like, ideally humans, what would be the ideal human existence?
So, like, if we could solve our problems and shit, like, I think what people would end up doing is just, like, kind of playing games a lot and competing a lot in different things, because, like, most of the shit that, like, our problems, that, like, are threats to our existence are our fault. So, like, if we could get rid of that shit, like, we actually do have a chance to be the shit. Like, we could work together. Like, we really could make this shit work really wonderfully for us. And we could have good lives.
Make what work?
Just like us and having to live and inhabit the world together, like, as human beings with, like, other living beings too. Like, life is so fucking miserable in so many ways, and it doesn't fucking have to be. Like, we should be able to go see the doctor but like instead of having fucking crazy ass multi-billion-dollar planes and like missiles and shit like that, it's fucking insane.
Facts.
Agreed wholeheartedly. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Let's hear from you. You said that you get excited in the face of knowing that you're inconsequential to the universe. Why is that?
Vastness and mystery. It
Mystery.
I think it's fun that I don't know. Well, I mean, it's fun not feeling like I have like a specific place in the universe. I think it's fun to not know what the hell is going on, with this whole existence thing, and B, give me a second to organize.
We live in a diverse universe.
Oh shit. Well, I can relate to what you just said, right? Like, it was like, I know you were raised religious as well, not to air you out. But like, I always felt almost like, knowing, like, Christians think for sure they're going to die and go to heaven. And I always thought that was so depressing. Like, I'm like, I don't think I even knew that was depressing me until I let go of that belief. And just like knowing, like thinking that a God created all of this and I exist just to be here and suffer and not masturbate. Like, it's like, life loses all its wonder. Now that I don't believe in a God and I don't believe that my existence matters to the universe, it honestly like gives me a sense of purpose, because now I feel so confident that like my one purpose is to be the thing that I am, which is a human, like trees don't ask what the fuck they're doing here. Bunnies don't ask what the fuck they're doing. Like, they're here to be a bunny. They're here to be a tree. I'm here to be a human. Like, I don't know why I want to talk and why I want to build stuff and do all this stuff, but like, that's just what I'm going to do. That's obviously what my purpose is. It's defined by my very biology, and it's trippy as hell, and I love it.
Agreed.
I don't know. My religious upbringing just made me really wish there was an afterlife, but I know there's not now, so I'm really depressed. Because, like, I wanted to chill with my friends forever in the afterlife, because I don't get to chill with them at all now.
Exciting.
Well, wait, I want to hear from Zuff, though. Why does that make you sad?
Well, because, like, I don't know. I feel like maybe it's for me because, like, I have a lot of issues with dissociation and it feels like my life is, like, slipping away, But, like, I want to hold on to life forever, I just appreciate what I have. And it just kind of sucks that there's nothing after, I'm just going to be I'm not even going to be able to register what's going on because I'm fucking dead,
Yeah,
I feel that. I mean, I don't want to die. Like, I hate the thought of dying. Like, I really don't want to die. I want to live forever. But
there's still mystery there, though. There's still mystery because, like, nobody fucking knows. Like, there's
not in my head.
Right, I understand, but like,
I mean, no one knows if Jesus is hiding under my bed either. But when there's nothing to suggest that he is, I don't know why I would even entertain that thought. That's how I feel about the afterlife. Like, there's literally nothing in the world to suggest that there would be one. So I don't even like, in my mind, it's not even a possibility.
I disagree that there's nothing in the world to suggest that, because I find the universe far, far too suspicious to put that past it. With all the fucking crazy ass shit.
In the context of the afterlife.
What if we get teleported? What if when we die, we get teleported to another universe and like we're aliens?
That'd fucking blow.
That would be tight as hell.
Nah, that fucking suck. I don't want to reincarnate. I want to retire.
Hold on. Hold on. I want to hear from John. Why? But why would I agree that there's lots of things, the universe, there's lots of mysterious workings of the universe. We don't know what's going to happen, but there's a reason we don't entertain endless hypothetical ideas like Jesus hiding under my bed. We entertain the ones that give you a suggestion that there might be that thing. So why is the afterlife to you a thing that could potentially exist? There must be a reason other than just anything's possible.
I feel like it could exist. I mean, I I don't feel like our lack of, verification of it really comes down to much. Like, yeah, you should be, and like, don't get me wrong, like, you should be extremely, extremely fucking like skeptical. What I'm saying is that like, I don't trust the universe to just like end things simply and cleanly is another way to look at it. So like, and a reason why I think like, at least, like in my gut, that feels like in line with my instincts is because like there was no reason for anything to fucking be here in the first place, but it's still fucking here. Like clearly, like, clearly extraordinary things, like things even greater than what religious people would call miracles are like regularly is like the stuff of our very existence. So like I say, why the fuck not? Like,
Yeah, I understand that, but I also think that it's like, I mean, entertaining a belief in the afterlife is as good as entertaining a belief in anything. So when I find myself like gravitating to things that I think I might just want, like something like an afterlife, even though I don't want that personally. But I've entertained theories about like telekinesis and stuff, for example, and I've like stopped myself because I'm like, bitch, you just want this to be real.
No,
Like,
because
let's take a quick poll.
telekinesis
Take a quick
is
poll.
real.
Who believes in
Oh,
ghosts in this
God.
chat? Who believes in ghosts in this chat?
We got any ghost believers?
They only exist if you put the energy
Yeah, there's a
towards
lot.
them. Like
What? Wait. Okay.
Like
Wait,
it's,
who?
So that's a yes.
no, I don't believe in ghosts. They only exist.
Jamie believes in ghosts.
They only exist if you believe.
Fuck a
If you
ghost.
believe.
We can create anything.
What?
We can create them. Like,
Yeah, they're
We are doing-
apparitions created from our consciousness. So like, if they only exist if like you really believe them.
Your consciousness is an apparition created by your consciousness. Like you are like, we have a biological like basis for life, but there is part of us that is like clearly more than just stuff, or else like there would be no reason for you to be here. Like you're Ugh.
It just sounds to me like you don't want to accept the fact that there's no reason for you to be here.
No, I do.
Ooh, shots
I do
fired.
accept the fact. Like that's the thing though, is that like you do accept the fact that there's no reason for you to be here. And so like by extension of that, there would be no reason for there to be something else as distinct from this either. Like it would still be just as much of a fucking mystery unto itself.
Okay, but I gotta ask, with the afterlife thing, like, what would be the purpose? Like, let's think about the universe again. Like, everything seems to serve some sort of like function, right? Or like,
Right. Well, let me put it this way.
why do we live and die then? Like, if we're just going to like continue living, like, what's like death and stuff? Like, why would some part of me like remain intact and roam the earth or become a boltzmann brain and like be released into the universe or some shit, like why would that happen?
I have no idea. And I even think that it's possible that like after you die, like whatever is left of you, like could be destroyed too. Like there's no reason that like there is some existence apart from life as we know it. And I'm trying not to frame this even in terms of an afterlife, because I don't even really necessarily think of it that way.
Okay. So you're just thinking about like energy being preserved and lingering around or something.
I mean, in a vague way, like, yeah, that kind of is. But also, like, that could be destroyed too. Like, I just don't think that, the whole, like, the ultra materialist view, I find, like, frankly, rather naive.
What do you mean ultra materialist, though?
To just be like, we're physical beings, like we're born, like we live and we die, and like when you die, that's it. And like, yeah, you know what? That's probably the fucking case. Like that probably is the truth. But it's not necessarily
Then why would you call it naive?
I think it's naive to like just completely like 100% be like, yes, that's the way it is. Everything else is stupid and like a misunderstanding of things.
So consciousness just disappears, dies, or what?
I'm sorry. What's
I
that?
mean, she said so consciousness just disappears, dies.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I definitely think that it does. I don't think that consciousness is even a real thing. I think
Yeah.
it's just how I describe my experience of being conscious. You know what I mean? I don't
Like-
think consciousness exists as some separate entity of a thing. I think that consciousness is a word. Like, I explained it to John. I was talking to you about this once.
Right.
Like, you know how when you're talking about like a movie, like the aesthetic of the movie, the aesthetic of a horror movie is spooky, right? And it's like, spooky doesn't exist. The aesthetic of the movie doesn't exist, but of course it like exists to you as you're watching it, you know, like the ambiance of this film is scary. I feel like that's what consciousness is, sort of. It's like I'm describing my subjective experience of lived consciousness as my conscious thought, you know, but consciousness is just like spooky. It's not a thing that actually exists with its own external properties.
That's exactly
just
right.
like-
and that's why it's not subject to like it shouldn't be subject to the same like understandings and like categories that things do.
Right. Well, I don't even want to say that's exactly right. This is just how I think right now, you know, but
Right.
this is like, you know, even as recent as like a year or 2 years ago, I'm still like thinking about all this other shit and DMTLs and, you know, like, there's so many like ways to just conceptualize this stuff, you know, like who fucking knows? That's all we can do. Just like try to come up with different ways to describe this thing. Are we thinking about it correctly, you know? And for me, that's where I'm at right now. Like, I think consciousness is just, it presents as this thing. It feels so real as you live it. It feels like, you know, it has to be this thing that's like a force within me. But I think it's just my best attempt to describe how I experience it, you know?
Yeah, I always considered consciousness just like a byproduct of your brain, you know? And the communication between like all your body systems, like senses of touch and sight, you know, those things change from people to people. And like I was gonna link this forever ago, but there's this one tribe that can see like completely different colors, you know? And that's just because it was convenient for them. Yeah, no, just because it was convenient for them in their environment. I can't remember the external factors that caused it, but like,
So I have a point to make.
Wait, hold on. Let Grace say.
So
Go
without
ahead.
consciousness, we can't perceive things.
Well, I think what we were just saying, or what I was just saying anyway, is I think that consciousness is sort of a way to describe the ability of being able to perceive. You know what I'm saying? Like, consciousness is it's the result of being able to perceive, you know? So I don't think that consciousness creates perception. I think that perception results in consciousness.
Yeah, I agree.
So if I could make a point, something that Zuff said. So like, and this is something that, whatever, just bear with me. So like, I agree that consciousness is like a byproduct of our brains, basically. But it's when you say that it is just like in anything like in philosophy, like a word to look out for is the word just, like describing things, because when you use the word just, it's like saying that like something is this and it's nothing more than that. Like there's no extra truth to it. There's no other understanding like around it that is valid. And that's, I think, a trick we play on ourselves a lot, that like we don't realize exactly like how we're funneling our thoughts when we use that word. And like, you know, it's an interesting point too, I think, in the sense that, you know, we're talking about language and how like it's related, and like does language have anything to do with us like being special or anything like that? Like it affects us in ways that we don't understand often, and like that's also something to be reflective about.
Yeah, that's a great point, I think, because, and actually, the next talk about it discussion, I think, will be really good because that's what I want to talk about. The next video, the implicit bias in language video, because I think what you just said is so true and trippy. Like, when we say a word like just, there's like an internalized affect that we have with it. You know, it's like, okay, well, that's like final, that's absolute. You know, like you were
Yeah.
saying, like language affects us so much. It almost, like a word like just almost feels like a conclusion, like you're saying, you know? So we do have to be careful
Absolutely.
with our language because, yeah, like it's affecting our affects. And then, like you were saying earlier, maybe, I don't know if this is what you were talking about, but I thought it was interesting when you mentioned desire and the interplay between language and desire. It's sort of true in this context, you know, it's like when you say a word like just, for example, like you have sort of made this like affirmation that's like conclusive, like, okay, that's what that is. So let's move on. You know, it's like there's like this interplay of like, I feel this way in the conversation. Now I'm going to move on to my next point or something. And so much of it just has to do with how you're wording things and how we define our words. It's
There you
crazy.
go. That's exactly the kind of thing I was getting at.
I love it.
I guess what I was really trying to say when I was talking about consciousness is a byproduct of like physical systems is that, and not just that, we don't know for sure, but like,
Say it again.
whoa. But
No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, I guess, you know, if we die and some part of our consciousness persists still, it's not going to be similar to this, you know, because
No.
you get some serious head trauma, you know, you're going to go
concept of
unconscious, you know.
That's true. And also in defense of Zuff, saying just too can be, I mean, just is definitely like a loaded word, but it also, I think, is very useful too, you know, because Zuff was able to communicate to us this idea that like, you know, some people do think that consciousness, the question mark around consciousness in their head is like too open-ended. So like saying just is like Zuff's way of affirming that they think that that's wrong, you know? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
like
Cammy, what were you gonna say?
Well, if Heaven's Gate were to take me tomorrow and I lost all my, like, all my consciousness was wiped and I had no idea what that fucking was, like, what would that be? I don't know.
you'd be like a baby.
But not even that. I wouldn't be a baby. I would be just be.
Nothing.
You would be what
be
they call
hella
a philosophical
confused.
zombie. It sounds.
Wait, I have a topic. I want to talk about something because it's something I think about often. What do you guys think about ego death? Because I'm an avid tripper, as I know some of you are as well. I always see people bringing up ego death, and usually it's just some like hippie justification that sounds totally ridiculous. And it's like, I was one with everything, blah, like, blah, blah. But like, I've experienced on high amounts of psychedelics, like forgetting language actually. And on DMT, I totally forgot who I was entirely. But I don't think I completely forgot who I was because, well, I forgot who I was, but I still had a sense of self. Like I've never lost this feeling of being like an independent unit in the world. You know what I'm saying? Like even when I was on DMT, like I forgot language. I forgot literally everything. All I remembered was the word body. And I knew that it had something to do with where I just was. But it was like a terrifying experience and I felt afraid. But I still felt like I was like an individual consciousness in this like, you know, big fucking fractal universe I was launched into without my body. So like what would I want to know what you guys think about ego death, like if you think it's real and what it would be, and also like if it would even be possible. I feel like the only way to have true ego death, you wouldn't even be able to remember the experience because you would literally lose all faculties of everything. Like Cammy was saying, you'd be fucking wiped blank. You'd just be nothing. So even if you experienced that, how could you remember it?
Yeah, I've had an experience where I was really slipping when I was on shrooms one time, and I didn't quite just like completely lose it, like ego death type, but I was having such a hard time speaking and comprehending what was going on, and like my friend
Been
kept
there.
passing me the blunt, and I was like, I don't even know what's going on right now. And like
It
it's
was like a
taken me
flashback to
like 10
kindergarten
minutes to
experience.
farm words. Yeah, and he's like, hit the fucking blunt, like and I'm like, whoa,
Oh my
dude.
God. Buddy. Yeah,
It's
I
like,
had that on mushrooms too. I totally forgot how to talk. I was just laughing and crying. I think I peed myself.
oh my
It
god,
was
I
just-
always worry that I piss myself, but I never do.
Hey, fuck it. I always think like whatever happens, happens. As long as I don't kill anybody. That
Oh,
would suck.
another thing, I guess. When I was okay, we'll never do it, but when I was taking a lot of Benadryl, I just, it was
Uh-oh.
like I just completely lost myself. It was just so weird. It's like time was just fucked up. Like an hour would pass after I like blinked, and like my perception was just so fucked up, and like I would be thinking thoughts in my head, and I would like suddenly be thrust into like whatever I was thinking about, and it was just my mind was racing, and I was so confused. Horrible experience, but like I guess I don't know. That had something to do with the conversation.
Yeah.
Benadryl's a hell of a drug.
I made some mistakes. That was one of them.
Nah. Perception is very scary. I read some article not long ago that I mean it was similar to the plot of a movie I watched as well. So I don't know if someone was just like jacking off with whatever opportunity they got to write this article, but it was saying that they're like going to start experimenting, or maybe they already have, with like time altering hallucinogenics so that you could like live out like a 100-year prison sentence.
Oh
in the
my god,
span
I
of,
heard
like,
about
10
that. I heard about
minutes.
that. That shit is fucking insane.
Yeah,
and it was written. by
That's also
philosopher.
a movie though, literally. Yeah. I mean, that is so scary because it's like, dude, you don't know what's happening in there. Say, like, in the movie that I watched, actually, it was like they were supposed to have like a 5-year prison sentence, but once the 5 years ended, it started over again, and they were like, "What the fuck?" Like, and they were just living out like so many years, so much longer than what had been like determined or passed on them. It was like, fuck, man, that shit is scary. Imagine like the government forcing you to do like time altering substances as punishment. Holy shit.
They
What was
fucking
the
that's
movie?
probably
horrifying.
already have like that fucking.
I'll find
like,
the name of it. I forget.
Didn't they fucking experiment like crazy on the dude who was the Unabomber? Like he was part of like mental experiments or whatever, like by the government for like an extended period of time. Like that's something not a lot of people talk about.
Really? They did that to my dude Ted?
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure he was part of like something that was at least like MK Ultra like.
Maybe they asked him for help because he's so smart.
Who knows?
What do you guys think about the Unabomber?
I mean, I don't really know a whole lot about him, but like I don't know. Industrialization clearly has been disastrous in the way that we've managed it.
On the topic of like special and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
I got this question about like the self, like the actual self. If I'm making sense, like what is it without? Could you like define it without the universe? Or like what is it without the universe?
What, being special?
No, like the self. And like does that make us special if there's an answer, or if there's like, or does that make the universe special?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question because it's like, what does special even mean, right? Except for like set apart. And I feel like the self is set apart by definition, you know? So I guess That's an interesting question. Like,
Do you see
what is
consciousness and the
special?
self as the same thing? Just curious.
Do I believe what?
Do you think that the self and consciousness are the same thing? Like, are those things synonymous to you?
I mean, I guess they could be. It would really depend on how we're defining them, you know. I don't the self and consciousness. I mean, I probably talk about it like that. Like when I say yeah, I mean, I'm referring to like my conscious self, but I'm also referring to my body too. So I mean, not necessarily.
Doesn't the
Wait, what were you gonna say, Spacecock? You were gonna say something else. I want to talk more to you. We haven't heard from you.
I kind of forgot, but I think it was like self. I kind of separate the two. The way I think of
Separate
it, I
what
guess,
too?
the self
The self and
like the
consciousness.
self and the consciousness.
How
Like
so?
I don't know. I think of consciousness being more like related to like perception and all that, and like the
As
self is
opposed
like
to. Mm-hmm.
like the
Yeah.
self. Like consciousness is something more like with like I guess perception and like your identity, but the self is like something kind of like extracted from this. I
But
don't know.
don't we all also have like an ego, a super ego, and an id type thing? I wish I could define what those all mean, but I read them all the time in the books. And someone want to explain that for me? This is Reese here.
Actually, I would love to explain those terms to you.
Please.
Do it.
All right, dog. So, you know, like I'm going to do it. This is going to be mostly Freudian and some like a little bit of extra Freudian, you know, to kind of ultimately help a little bit, you know, help it make a little bit more sense. Cause, you know, the kind of shit he was trying to do, it didn't make a lot of sense in a lot of ways.
Well, did these concepts come from Freud?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Explain.
Okay. So to condense it down, like Freud, and keep in mind, like he thought that the id, the superego, in the ego were literal like parts of the brain. Like he thought that we could find the structures of the mind like evidenced in like the actual brain and shit, which like no, like it doesn't work that way. Like, and he didn't know that. Like he didn't realize that. Like, you know, we didn't know enough. I mean, you know, it was still kind of a nutty idea, I guess, but whatever. So like the id is basically like your desires and the things that you try to repress. The superego is basically like, you know, the authority in your head. It's the shit that like you feel like you should do, but you kind of throw by the
Kinda
wayside.
like
and like, you know, there's
subconscious?
I mean, the subconscious when it comes to like Freud is a very, very specific term. Like it's the same with like all these and like unconscious and shit like that, like whatever. So basically the superego like makes you feel guilty and shit, like for jerking off and fucking, you know, wanting to kill your neighbor even if he's a dick to you. It's that superego is like really no fun. It sucks, like it's stupid. But the ego is like, to him, the ego was like, when we talk about awareness or consciousness, that's the ego, like the zone where we have like some control, where, you know, we care about the conditions in there. Like the ego is sensitive, like it can get too excited, it can get overwhelmed, like, etc.
Huh. Well, let's talk about the subconscious for a second, because this is an idea that personally really bothers me. The whole idea of the subconscious, and it's relevant to what we're saying. It's very relevant.
Me too.
Please. Because I think that the subconscious, I mean, I think maybe there's something to the idea that like things like body language, how we're communicating without language, or even without being directly aware of like the kinds of cues we're sending and receiving. Like, I think that there's something to that idea. when we talk about the subconscious, but a lot of people seem to conceptualize it as this like pool of information that's like generally inaccessible to us. And like, you know, we interact with it in various ways. And it's sort of this like hidden sea of knowledge that like, you know, has biases and all this shit. But I don't really believe that that thing probably exists. And I feel like what people say is the subconscious is like kind of like to go back to the wanting the apple thing. When you want an apple but you don't say to myself I want an apple, people seem to like draw this divide between conscious thought and subconscious thought, and what they're really defining as conscious thought is just like what you say to yourself in your head with words. And to me that's like so unnecessary and stupid, kind of, you know, like is it yeah well is it like is saying I want an apple my conscious mind, and if I don't say I want an apple but I know I want an apple, is that my subconscious? Like what is the conscious supposed to be? Things that you're like directly aware of and expressing back to yourself? Know what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
All
I
I'm
kind of
thinking
think
about,
like, you know, like imagine like a robot looking in the mirror and kind of like opening its tin belly. It's like, oh yeah. I don't know.
Speaking of the consciousness,
That's
I was
about looking in the mirror. That's like kind of a beautiful idea.
speaking of
Space coming
And
through
he's
with
got
the
a-
poetic imagery.
with the tin belly too.
How does that relate to the how does that relate to the subconscious though?
is artificial intelligence real or not? Indecisiveness.
No, it's not.
Oh, artificial intelligence.
I know.
No,
Imagine- imagine
It's
someone-
totally fake and total.
I do agree.
imagine someone who's blacked out on Xanax looking at themselves in the mirror. Is that their subconscious seeing themselves?
I feel that.
Well, I just don't think that the subconscious is what we, you know, I think it's a pretty useless concept. The way we use it, I think it's better to, you know.
Is that where our dreams come from?
Well, dreams are some other shit. I don't even know what to think about dreams, honestly.
That's just our brains going hog
Speaking of
wild.
Xanax and dreams, one of the side effects of Xanax is that you have extremely, extremely lucid dreams, which you sometimes literally are not able to distinctualize from real life and dream life. And I've experienced this a lot. Like, I've literally had the most lucid dreams and woken up and remembered the entire thing and thought, wait, did this actually happen? Is my dad, like, going to get the mail?
Yeah,
For the longest time, I always...
What about dreams that, like, do you ever have, like, dreams that kind of trigger, like, a deja vu for you?
Yeah, I used to have like the most realistic dreams ever, and I dreamt that I like talked to an ex like 7 times, and I was like, oh, okay, I don't have to talk to him anymore. But I didn't.
Wait, so you actually believed in real life that your dream had happened?
Yeah, like I woke up and I thought it was a
happened
memory.
to me as well. My friend had a boyfriend, and I wasn't attracted to him whatsoever. Then I had this really crazy dream in which I did some pretty impure things. And I woke up feeling like, wow, this motherfucker is actually super, super fucking hot. Ever since then, I've been attracted.
See, now that is something we can talk about. That is fucking interesting, because here you are, like, and this is beautiful. So here's somebody who, you know, you feel, you know, not attracted to whatsoever. Yeah. And then, like, you know, I would say that, like, you didn't want to admit to yourself that you were. And then, like, all of a sudden, you know, you fucking sleep on it, and, you know, your defenses are shut down when you're sleeping. So your brain gets to do shit like you normally would not to do.
I could understand.
But how long did this feeling last?
Oh, no. It went on for, like, a long time.
No, but are you still attracted to them?
I would say.
Okay.
It's definitely what
that's interesting.
Definitely
because
what you were saying. It's definitely a repression.
That is repression in fucking action right there.
Hey, wait. It might
Hey,
not
shush,
be
Freud boy.
repression. Yeah, Freud. It might not be repression because think about how attraction works. You know, sometimes somebody
My
doesn't
mind telling
seem
me
attractive
no.
to you until you realize something
My
about them. You know,
body
like
telling
it's
me
That
so
night your
I wouldn't
body
say that's
told you yes.
repression.
Yeah, until that night when you're all alone.
No, but I'm saying maybe something was revealed to them in the dream, like, oh, they're
If it
actually
looks like your
interesting.
dad.
But
Oh,
see,
they got a cute style.
Oh, they actually got a bang and bod.
Here's why it has to be repression. Is because he didn't learn any new information from the time like after he met them and went to sleep. It was something
You don't know that. Maybe they told a really funny
I do
joke
have a
in
really
the
fun
dream.
fact about it.
Maybe he.
Yeah,
Oh,
one
okay,
time
so
I
what's
had a
up?
dream where I like.
Let's hear from the dream haver themselves.
Let's go to the horse's mouth.
What
okay?
happened? What happened in the dream that
It
night?
was one of those literally like walking around the park type dreams, and then I see this guy with his girlfriend, and I'm like, let's get him away from his girl. I get jealous in the dream. I get him away from his girlfriend, and we pretty much publicly fuck.
No.
I'm not kidding either. That's
Okay.
We'll come back to that detail later.
It's very weird.
Wait, so nothing was revealed in the dream? It's not like they looked at you cute or something, and you're like, you know what? Actually, they got a nice smile.
I think it was revealed that I would home wreck my friend for her boy.
Yes.
Okay,
See,
maybe
like
it
this
is
is your
repression.
brain. Like here's the thing: is like, and this is like a strictly. I think it's accurate in this case, which it's not reliable. I wouldn't go on this all the time, but like. Basically, like that was your brain's way of admitting to you that you would do something like that without it being like too direct and like that would be too upsetting and that would cause you a crisis. Because that's the job of like basically the ego is to maintain like stability. So like that form of knowledge was too traumatic to you to like, you know, not even necessarily true traumatic, but like it would be disturbing to think about that and like, you know, in the context of your dear friend.
I understand you fully. Thank you.
Wait, just while I have a minute, I want to say I'm cutting this off at 11.
Yes,
so let's get in any crazy ideas before then, just for the purposes of uploading this. You know, I don't want to be uploading like 3-hour long things to the YouTube. I feel like no one will listen to it.
I was not here at the very beginning. What was the main topic of discussion?
We're talking about the second video, which is human consciousness special? And special in the context of being set apart from like the animals.
Okay.
Because, you know, this is a popular idea that people have, that humans have unique properties of consciousness that we don't share with other species.
I don't know if we have an answer to this, but do animals dream?
I think dogs do. Right?
Oh, do animals dream?
Yeah, I think dogs have dreams. At least we save it.
They have dreams. I have something to say about dreams.
Rats can dream.
Wait,
What are
what's
their dreams
Grace?
like?
Grace, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, sometimes I dream things that are gonna happen, and how the fuck do I explain that? Like, I was talking
And
to
then
a
it
friend about
happens?
astrology,
Baby, I swear.
and he said like it's not true. Like, we can have something else and still have the same response.
Deja vu.
I mean, that's interesting. I think I've had experiences too where I've dreamed something and then something similar happened. For example, my old pet rabbit, Buddy, rest in peace, Buddy. But the night before he died, I had a dream that he like jumped down this like dark void. And it seemed really weird to me for a while. But then I was thinking, you know what? He had been sick. Like he was on my mind, you know?
Exactly.
So it makes sense to me that I had a dream like that. Yeah. And also sometimes I think we remember, memory is like a very faulty faculty, right? You know, like there's been phenomena where like people describe all seeing the same man in a dream. There's like, it's like a popular thing on the internet. It's really funny. Have you seen this man? And all these people have reported seeing the same person. And it's like, I don't doubt that they genuinely believe they had this dream with the man, even before seeing the picture or whatever. And then are like, oh, I've seen that. But like we know that memory is such a faulty faculty. I think a lot of memories we can't really trust them, so if you think you dreamed a thing that happened, I think the chances are that like the dream probably isn't exactly like you remember it. I mean, dreams are so hard to remember anyway. Like
What
I can
about
barely remember them.
like, have you ever had a dream where you were like, you were just completely like in like a different dimension or something? Or like, I've had dreams where I was like, I don't know where I am or what I'm like. I can't even see myself, and I'm like floating through things, and it's like a short little phase where I'm just like floating through like clouds and shit, and like the only way I can like really acknowledge my own like self is by like creating, like, I don't know, like for me, like I'd like making sounds or some shit. I don't know.
I feel like we are
That's tight.
all.
Yeah, that sounds trippy. I can't remember if I have. But
My
that
dreams are like
awesome.
literally just imitations of like normal life for me.
Sometimes for me, they're like that.
I hate it when that happens.
I forgot. Hold on.
Like
The homewrecker has something to say.
I have so many dreams about like.
It's I don't know. I forget about it. Sorry.
Going off of what you said, actually, I was thinking about when you're dreaming of something that is like totally not an actual reality. Don't you still feel like you're kind of still in that dream, in that reality, but you know it is a dream? So that when you wake up, you're like, oh, okay, that was a dream. That was a different world. But
well, for me, it's like difficult, to be honest. Whenever I'm like waking up, I don't dream very often anymore because I smoke the heavy pot. But like,
man, some
when I would be dreaming, like I don't know, it felt more real than like real life for me. Like I don't know, and like I would wake up slowly, and like I don't know, usually with these dreams, it's like I wake up, but then I fall back asleep, and it's like I can feel myself slipping out of it, and then I'm just really confused when I'm like actually awake.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck was going on?
Have you ever had that falling feeling in your dream where you wake up because you feel like you're falling?
Yeah, I get
Yeah, I had
falling asleep.
I feel like that's kind of like...
I had a recurring dream that always ended with me getting in a tornado and falling.
Oh, yikes.
Wait, do you guys ever have the experience of when you're in a dream and things are starting to get really bad? It's like all of a sudden you can recognize that you're in a dream and use that to pull yourself out of it.
Yeah.
It's like I get that a lot with nightmares. Like it feels real while I'm in it.
I was dreaming.
It gets so fucked up. It's like maybe at a certain point you have the idea like maybe this is a dream, and then it's like as soon as you realize it, you can just pull yourself out, and it's like
yeah, that's happened to me.
About to get fucking chopped up.
I had a dream that I was getting possessed, and I had like my body.
Sorry.
I had this one dream. Oh God, wait. I gotta remember it now. Hold on. Oh, I got it. This one dream when I was in like 3rd or 4th grade. I remember it so distinctly just because it was one of the weirdest dreams I've ever had. But I was in like a 3rd grade class in my room, or in my dream and everything. And all of a sudden, it's like War of the Worlds broke out, and those tripods started like taking over the entire place. And it literally became like survive on your own at our school in my dream.
I always have terrorist dreams. But wait, before we all just start telling our crazy dreams to each other, because we could do that. But we could also talk about what the fuck we think dreams are, because this is something that really trips me out. And also, there's always movies and stuff, right, where like people like go into people's dreams, like The Cell, or like dreams, like they can.
That would be fun.
I love that movie. But like, we do a lot of like science fiction where like you could play dreams back on like a computer or something. And something I've been thinking about a lot is like, I wonder if dreams even have like a visual component, or if everything is just like completely...
Chemicals in the brain.
It's not random. I don't think it's random.
Is it chemicals in the brain?
Well, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking if this is so hard to articulate, but basically, like, if I see a thing and commit it to memory, right? Like maybe hypothetically, it could be played back on some like machine because I visually perceived this thing and like, I saw it. It's in my memory, or at least some representation of it is. But with a dream, since I'm not really actually perceiving anything around me, like I wonder if you could ever even actually in some science fiction universe play it back, like if there even is that visual component, or if everything that we're dreaming is like happening in some totally different way. You know what I'm saying? Because we're not actually seeing these things. In our dreams, it feels like we are seeing them. But I wonder if you could like take a screenshot actually of your dream. First of all, if there would even be one, or if it would just be like totally black, because that's like not how we're perceiving dreams. But also like maybe if you took a screenshot and like it's actually like mostly black or something,
like Nightmare on Elm
What is
Street,
imagination?
how they could grab things from their dreams and bring it back to reality type thing, except without maybe the nightmares on Elm Street.
Question.
Well, wait. Ray was gonna say something. Ray, what were you just saying?
I was just going to say that whatever visual aspect of dreaming is the same visual aspect of whatever the hell imagination is.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's interesting. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. It's like, because like when I imagine something and I visualize it, it's not like perfect, right? I can't like ever see a photograph in my head, no matter how hard I try to visualize something. I can like, it's like hazy, It's like if we actually screenshotted our dreams, would it be something like that? Like I always think like when you're in your dreams, it feels like there's this very real material universe around you. But like if we could actually visualize it or something, what if you just like zoom in, there's like full of empty holes everywhere, Or also like what if there's just no visual component at all? Like it feels like you're visualizing something, but you're obviously not. Like what the fuck is that about?
Have you ever heard of
You
blind
have
sight?
also like feelings that you don't have natural. I don't know.
What is this blind sight?
Oh, wait, what blind sight?
Yeah, it's something. I couldn't tell you much about it. An old professor of mine told me about it. But basically, it's this phenomena where you have people who are blind, right? And like somebody would hold up cards in front of them, and they would be like, "Okay, we know you're blind or whatever, but just tell me what the fuck is." Let's like tell me whatever is on this card or whatever. And like some people, they would be like, look, I have no idea why I'm saying this, but I want to say it's like a triangle. And they would fuck it like it would be a fucking triangle. And it's like I said, I can't tell you much about this. It was something that was told me by like an old professor of mine. But like there's a lot about this shit that is like, I don't know, shit is not apparent,
There's
dog.
episodes in movies.
Does the person holding up the card know that there's a triangle on it?
Uh-oh.
There's television shows.
Okay, there we go. So
I got that.
Okay, so that's a really good question. I can't tell you. I would say, I don't know.
Well, like, I was going to say, I've heard this study from this podcast that I listen to sometimes. That's actually, I won't name it because I want to diss the person. But they were talking about this study. No, no. Actually, it's this podcast. I enjoy some of their guests a lot, but the host is totally just this guy that obviously had some sort of near-death experience and is now like obsessed with like fucking hippie bullshit. But he has some guests sometimes that are interesting, and one of them was this woman. I think she was like Harvard and Johns Hopkins grad. Not like that. No, not that necessarily means anything, but one of the studies she was doing was on savants, autistic savants. Autistic savant.
Oh.
That's why I said that instead, because idiot is just being they're just changing out autistic for idiot, which
but most
is
of the people in the mental
especially in the
hospital were
context of
schizophrenic,
this.
like paranoid schizophrenic diagnosed. So I don't know if it was.
I don't know
autism.
that doesn't the word. Couldn't you just say savant?
Well, savant means something in
Why do you got to
own.
put like
it
a
just
word
means
before?
that you're, kind of a master at something. that you're an expert at something.
Yeah, I mean, the reason people, the whole thing with autistic savants is they say autistic as a descriptor because it's like a thing that a lot of autistic people end up being, you know, like I think the highest incidence of savants are within people who have autism.
I guess
So that's why they do a lot of studies on it and stuff. But what I was saying was that I asked John if the blind sight people, if the person asking them saw the triangle on the card, because this study that this woman was doing was on autistic savants, and basically she was doing the study, and what she was doing like really highly complicated math problems, and she had the answers in front of her. Like she was asking a young girl, I think she was like under 10, who was an autistic savant, or they think she might be, like these really crazy math problems, and she was getting all the answers right. So they were like, okay, well, she must be like have like these crazy computing powers. But then they did one problem, and she asked what the answer was, and the girl got it right on the card. But then they found out later that the math problem was wrong. The answer that she had written down, the answer was wrong, but that was the answer that the girl gave to her. So she was like, holy shit, is this girl like not even doing math in her head? She just like knows what's on the fucking like card because I'm looking at it or something.
Like that.
You know, like are we having some telepathic communications? And it's like, dude, maybe. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm skeptical of that podcast in general. So like, I don't know about all this guy's guests and stuff. He's had like crazy people on there talk about dumb shit. But that's an interesting idea with the blind thing, you know. It's like, and in the context of everything we're talking about, it's like, am I communicating something to this person and I don't even mean to be, you know? Like, am I somehow letting them know that there's a triangle on the card, or letting them know what I'm seeing in front of me, you know?
Yeah, it's a great question.
It doesn't even have to be telepathic necessarily. I mean, it's what we describe as being telepathic, but maybe there's like all sorts of things we don't know that, you know, we're picking up cues from
cue cards.
I mean, you'd have to admit, I think, that like there are things we know that like we don't know that we know, basically. And that sounds like some fucking crazy ass like Donald Rumsfeld ass shit, like war in Iraq shit or whatever, but like I find that to be true, and that's basically like what the unconscious is all the shit that we know that like we don't have a discursive knowledge that like we can tell ourselves.
Is this
about.
repressed thought?
That's true, but also
would you consider this gosh what's the word, repressed thought? Would you consider it that?
What
the
exactly?
stuff in your unconscious?
In some cases, a lot of it is, yeah. In a lot of cases, I would say it is, because like a lot of knowledge is like traumatic and like too hot to handle a lot of times. So it's like we come at it sideways in our own way. Like that's just part of life.
I also think that we have to be really careful here, because something I think that like really fucks with our heads and our perceptions is we like put too much trust in ourselves. I think, you know, like, why do people believe in ghosts? Because they feel something in the room. Or like, you know, why do people think that this thing is happening? Because I can't describe it. I just feel it, you know. Like, I think that humans have a lot of sensations that we're not directly like aware of all the time, but we need to also like remember that our perception is constantly deceiving us, you know. Like, for example, there's even frequencies that scientists have identified that actually make people feel as if they're in the presence of some like large supernatural entity that they describe as being something like a god, you know, just because of some like crazy fucking like frequency that's being played, and they're feeling like we're constantly, by way of our physical bodies, interacting with our physical environment, like being deceived all the time, you know. Same with like seeing something out of the corner of our eye. Like, I feel like when I was like a child and a Christian and stuff, I would always be like, oh, maybe it's an angel. Oh, like maybe it's a demon, you know. Like, when you already have like sort of like biases in your head, I feel like a lot of times our perception perception sort of leads us down these dangerous paths. Same with like believing in the afterlife or something, you know, like what we were talking about before. It's like, I feel like the experience of being human and being perceptive is like so literally fucking trippy and beautiful and amazing in our heads. It's like we're so vulnerable to entertaining all these dangerous like theories of existence and like hidden knowledge and things that like might be there that we just like don't know about, or telekinesis, you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like at least with myself, I'm super on guard at all times because I know that I'm like prone to like follow weird impulses that are based in like my perception, bruh.
All data is not information.
I also feel.
What do you mean by that?
I just, in terms of like, you know, like you said, it's like you see something out of the corner of your eye, or like, you know, some things that are like that we feel physically aren't actually like really like caused by anything. They're just kind of like effects of the system that like does process like, you know, sensory input. And it's just, yeah, it's just shit that your brain is like signifying to you. Like it doesn't actually inform you about something happening.
True, but it does inform you about your own self, you know? It's like, oh.
That is very true also, yeah. Important to say, too.
I kind of have this, like, and this is just me, maybe. I'm thinking this is just me because I don't want to, you know, talk for anyone else. But I feel like when we are born, we kind of are born with this bubble of solipsism around us where we don't really know the difference between, you know, the importance of other people and the importance of ourselves, because we're so self-focused on, well, ourselves as children.
Well, you can't really help it, right? That's why there's this phenomenology club, because we recognize that we can't escape our own perception.
Talk about it.
And on that note, it's 11:06. We've been going. I know you guys haven't been here the whole time, but we've been going about 2 hours. So I think I got to wrap it up for the purposes of this upload.
I can close the door. Here.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Thank you. You all are the best. I'm sorry that I announced this on a whim. I'm not going to do that for the next one. This one, just Zuff recommended it. And I'm like, you know,
my bad. Not your
let's
bad.
do it. No, that was great, Zuff. And you talked a lot. So I was like, good. And we had some other people that hadn't really spoken too much in the last one were available. So I was like, cool, let's do a new little meetup. But the next one, I'm definitely announcing, because the next one, I want to get super trippy. The implicit logical bias of language, which unfortunately is a really hard video to hear. I'm trying to make a better audio version of that one so people can just listen to it if they want. But that's my favorite one I've done so far, and the one that I think is the most interesting. So I hope that you will all come back and be a part of that one. And I'm going to announce that one in advance and make sure it's a good time for everybody, because that one I want to get really real, son. But yeah, I'm going to upload this one and the first one at the same time, so people have two at the same time. So get ready for that, guys. Thank you for
having us.
You're the best. And feel free. You're the best. I love you all. Feel free to keep talking here, but I'm going to tell the bot to stop and maybe talk about something other than consciousness, so we don't have a repeat of last time where I'm like, oh shit, I should still be recording. Let's talk about some dumb bullshit or something.
Yeah, we don't talk about dumb bullshit enough.
No, I'm just kidding.
All right, I'm telling the bot. Everyone say goodbye.
Buttress.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Hey.
Bye.
No, I'm just telling the bot. Say bye, Craig. Our Discord
Bye,
bot.
Craig.
Bye.
The Discord
Fuck
bot.
you,
Fucking Craig.
Fuck off, Craig.
Goodbye, Craig.
Craig, fuck off.